Okay, we're going to take a look at the New Mexico Campaign 1862, and this was designed by Charles Diamond in 2008 and appeared in Strategy and Tactics magazine number 252. Now, it's a simple game. There's only about 12 pages of rules, so I'd classify it as almost introductory level. Now, I've been reading a lot about the Civil War lately. I've been studying the Civil War since about 1969, and I visited nearly all of the Civil War battlefields. So the Civil War is kind of my thing. And but I wasn't familiar with the far, far west campaigns, and I mean west of the Mississippi. I don't mean Pea Ridge and Wilson's Creek or Vicksburg. I mean far, far west, like New Mexico, Arizona. And this game kind of fitted the bill. I'm only getting around to it now. I've played it about 5 times now with an opponent, and my opponent and I are very favorably impressed with this very simple but really good game. Let's take a look at the components, and I'll tell you a little bit how it plays. Okay, the counters are quite nice looking. They're 5/8 inch counters, large enough for these old eyes to see the graphics on them. Now there you have a depot counter, and there's a supply wagon. Now all the Confederate units are in generic cavalry units. Now in real life the armies were composed of infantry and cavalry, but for the purposes of this game they show the Confederates with a cavalry symbol. Now Sibley's army mainly was cavalry, so that's appropriate. And these are Colorado militia. They're on the Union side. They stick around for a turn or two, then head home. And for the Union, they've chosen a generic infantry symbol. And these are all in generic strength points, which can be exchanged for 1s, 2s, 3s, that kind of thing. There you have the Supreme Commanders, General Sibley for the Confederates, General Canby for the Union. And these are examples of subordinate commanders, General Lewis and General Pyron. So the counters are nice looking and quite functional. Okay, here's an overall look at the board. Now it's quite plain looking because the terrain out there actually is quite plain. I drove out to New Mexico 2 years ago to look at this terrain, and I was just amazed at how barren it is. Anyway, the situation is to the right of the map is north, and the left, of course, is south. Now, you can see forces strung out all along the long river. That, of course, is the Rio Grande. Now, most of the campaign is going to take place along the Rio Grande, and once you get out there and see the real terrain, you see why. The armies had to pretty well stick to the rivers for supply. They didn't want to venture out into the desert here, and boy, that's desert terrain, believe me. Then you have these mountains here with the passes. That's the San Andreas Mountains, and more mountains there with passes. And that's Fort Stanton there. Anything to the south, to the left here, is Confederate territory. Anything to the right is Union. So you have a very interesting campaign with a long, skinny, linear line with the Union forces here at Fort Craig. That's the main Union force. And then over here you've got General Sibley. That's his main army there. Now the climax of the campaign happened way up here at Glorieta Pass. And there's the site of Fort Union. So we're going to go, I'll zoom in on these areas so you get an idea of what this campaign is all about. Okay, here we are at the extreme south end of the board. That's Fort Bliss, Texas, with a single strength point of Confederate cavalry and a depot, which means any number of men can be supplied there for an infinite period, up to 6 X's away. Over here you've got Fort Fillmore with a single strength point, and you've got Sibley's main army, which in the setup is allowed to be set up within 1 hex of Fort Thorne. And in playing we found out that the Confederates often set up over here so they can make a dash and outflank Fort Craig. Now we'll go up the Rio Grande to where Fort Craig is. I visited there 2 years ago too. It's pretty interesting to see. Just ruins now, but you just freak out at the terrain around there. It's so desolate. Anyway, the main Union force is there. Lots of infantry, and he's got a depot too, so he's got more or less infinite supplies if he sticks around Fort Craig. Then going up the Rio Grande, we have very small forces here. You can see a 2 at Socorro, New Mexico. These aren't even garrisoned. We have a small force at Albuquerque with a supply wagon. Over here you've got for Santa Fe, actually, with an infantry and a wagon, and the main supply point under Captain or Colonel Paul, an infantry force with an artillery. Now way over here at Fort Wingate is a small militia detachment, a wagon, and a small garrison. So the Union are spread fairly thin. Their main concentration is around Fort Craig. And all the reinforcements come in here at Fort Union. So you've got this classic situation where Sibley, in order to win the game, more or less you can win the game by getting the knockout blow, by knocking out Fort Union. That's going to be a tough nut to crack. Sibley is fortunate in that he's got 2 supply wagons, so he can actually outflank here to the east or west and bypass Fort Craig. But if he does that, the Union forces here at Fort Craig could actually move south and interdict his supply line. So you've got this very odd campaign with very, very skinny front trying to defend. And like I say, we've played 5 games now. I've played both sides, Union and Confederate. I find it a very challenging game. For a simple game, I'm really, really impressed with this game. Now, marching is really interesting because there's a die roll involved. It isn't automatic, and you just can't say enough good things about this game. What else can I say? The proof is in the pudding, the playing of it. For a magazine game, it's very good. I find the designer caught the spirit of the campaign. He seems to have done his research very well because I've read up on the campaign, and this game does simulate the situation very well. The combat results tables and the casualties and attrition tables are all on the board. You've got a fire strength table there, so obviously the more strength you have, the more casualties you're going to inflict on the enemy. And the higher you are in strength, the greater chance you're going to have of attrition on the board. And attrition supplies everything. The most important counters in this whole game are the depot and the good old supply wagon. And these can be captured. Artillery is also important. They lend important die roll modifiers. So you'll want to take account of them if you can. I'm not going to say much more about the game. It's just a little gem, in my opinion. It's just a very well done game. You got some nice graphics there showing Sibley and Canby. Kit Carson is here, the famous Indian scout. There's your terrain effects chart giving you the various effects. The terrain is not much of an impediment in this game. Like I said, this is all just desert terrain today. It's just very desolate. Even when I went out there and saw the Rio Grande, I was quite shocked. The Rio Grande didn't have any water in it when I went up. It was just kind of dry. So I guess the water table has changed since the Civil War. Anyway, I won't say much more about the game. The proof is in the pudding. If you want a good little game on the New Mexico campaign of 1862, I'd highly recommend this game. I just can't say enough good things about it. So that's it for now, and thank you for watching.